Gonna let the sun shine in today.
Hey friends, this is Whiskey and Whit. I'm Whitney, and today's video is full of a ton of Dollar Tree DIYs that are lavender themed. They are perfect for spring, and they all look really high end, but they are not super expensive, so stay tuned. I've said it before and I will say it again, Dollar Tree has lavender and Walmart has lavender. Dollar Tree's lavender obviously is $1 and Walmart's is $1.47, but Walmart's is so much better. So much better. Dollar Tree used to have a little bit better lavender, then they changed it and just it sheds. It is terrible. If you need lavender for a project, go to Walmart. If you are in Walmart and you're looking for their greenery, which I will be using today, you want to be sure to look down below. Most of these cheaper $1 picks are on the bottom shelf. So like squat down, look at the bottom. That's where you're gonna find your eucalyptus, your lamb's ear, any type of boxwood, also these picks. So just PSA, these are Dollar Tree DIYs, but we're using Walmart greenery because for 47 cents, like it is a night and day difference. So with that, let's get into the DIYs. The first project is a Kirkland's inspired dupe. So I was perusing Pinterest and I found this lavender and lamb's ear arrangement. It's on sale right now, but it's actually $24.99 regular price. And I thought to myself, I can make that with Dollar Tree stuff. So I grabbed one of these flower and garden pails that they've got every year. They usually have a few different sizes. They add different ones each year. And I just take some nail polish remover, rubbed off the words. It comes off pretty easily. That's the nice thing with Dollar Tree stuff. It's cheap and it's easy to remove, like the glitter. Then I just added some Dollar Tree floral foam into the bottom to give me a really solid base. And then I'm using my miter shears to trim the bottom off some Walmart greenery. Now the lamb's ear at Walmart is 2 sprigs for $1. So I ended up using 3 packs here, which ended up being $6. And then I inserted some Walmart's lavender and I ended up using 2 sprigs of that. So that's another 3. So we've got $9 in there and we've got a $1 bucket so far. Then I popped off the handles and added rope to match my inspiration pick, and that is it. This is a really cute item that you can personalize. If you've got a Cricut or some kind of vinyl cutting machine or any type of decal, you can add that to the front. Just about 10 minutes, some Walmart and Dollar Tree supplies, and that $24.99 display. You can get the same look for under 10 bucks. This next one has to be my favorite, if not one of my favorites of this video, and it is this felt lavender pillow. So I ended up using a sheet of felt that I got from Walmart because their sheet of felt is 28 cents. And if you get felt at Dollar Tree, it is $1, obviously. So I cut 8 strips, about even, but I wasn't, super concerned that they were even, of the felt. And then I took some hot glue and glued them long ways in half. So just a strip of hot glue and then pushed it together. You want to hold it down and make sure it stays. Then on the folded edge, you're going to just cut some fringe. I wasn't super careful about how wide each piece was, but you do want to be careful that you don't go too crazy and cut through the felt. You want to give it enough that you've got like a little loop, but you don't want to cut the full thing apart. I had a couple Russian roulette times where it just cut, so be careful as you're doing that. Then I took just a little piece of floral wire to give my piece something to stick to and added some hot glue and just kind of rolled it around. The key here is you just want to make sure that the little fringes are separate so that you get those little kind of leaves or, little bubble looking pieces that you would get with regular lavender. So when you wrap the whole thing around and secure it at the bottom, here's what it will look like. And so I went through and did some with a full strip. I cut some strips in half just so then that way I had a variety of sizes to make a little bouquet. And then the one thing I wish I would have done is make my piece of floral wire a little bit longer. So if you're making this, keep that in mind so that you could do this at the end. So I took them all together and I twisted the floral wire just so then that way it all kind of was together. And then I wrapped that with some jute twine. So it looked like it was just a freshly cut little sprig of lavender. Then for my pillow, it's just one of the baby blankets from Dollar Tree in their kids section. I ended up cutting it in half, so I got a square pillow. and I glued the edges, so then that way I could create essentially a faux seam. So I glued around the edges enough so that I could flip it inside out and could still get my hand in to stuff it. And then I just used some leftover stuffing that I have from a cheap pillow that I bought at Walmart. You could use a variety of different things to stuff it. I've also seen people stuff pillows with cotton balls from Dollar Tree, so whatever works for you, and then glue up your pillow. Then I just took some hot glue and stuck the lavender piece to the front, and then I also used some additional hot glue so it was fixed to the pillow a little bit better than just the bottom being stuck. It is really cute for my front entryway on a chair there. Obviously, this is not something you're going to want to sleep on because there's floral wire in there, but everything's covered. I feel fine with Finn touching it. But $4 plus some stuffing for a decorative pillow is awesome, especially when it's fully Dollar Tree, or you can do it cheaper if you buy Walmart felt. This next one is also Pinterest inspired. It is a mason jar that is painted to have some lavender on it. So I started with this ball mason jar. This one did happen to come from the Dollar Tree, so if you get lucky, you can find some really nice mason jars in there. You can also get these from Walmart. After I gave it 2 coats and I painted all the way up to the top of the jar, then I took some sandpaper and roughed up the letters. This is optional, but I really like to do this on some of the raised areas to give it that rustic look. So once it was all sanded, I took these cool new Arteza acrylic markers, and they're just acrylic paint but in markers that they sent me to test out, and I actually really like them for this project. I took one of the greens and I was making different stems for the lavender, as well as putting some little leaves down at the bottom, so then it kind of looked like they were sprouting from the bottom of the jar. Now, I am not a drawer. I'm not artsy in that way. I can design on a computer, but I cannot draw really to save my life. So when you guys see me draw stuff, like, anybody can really do it. So here's what that looked like, just a couple simple lines. I did some in different directions and overlap. In this pack there were 3 different colors of purple, so I started with the medium color, and I went through and just created some arrows essentially on either side, and then after I made my line, I kind of bubbled them a little bit just to start to create the base of the lavender. I also made sure to pay attention to how long the stem was for the different sizes to give it a little bit of different texture. Then I repeated this step with the lightest purple next, and I just filled in any of the gaps, but I didn't fill it in completely because I knew I had a 3rd purple color to go in with. And then I did fill in any of the gaps with the darkest purple, and I used this to give it a little bit more dimension. And then this is how it all looked when it was done. My final step was just to take some light green. This is totally optional, but I just used it to give a little bit more dimension to the leaves at the bottom and the grass. And then once everything was dry, I finished it off by wrapping the top with some jute twine and adding some lavender and eucalyptus from Walmart. Again, I am not somebody that can draw, but I am pretty proud of how this turned out. It's really cute. I've seen a pin of these on Pinterest for a while, and I decided what better time to try my hand at it than a lavender themed video. I had so much fun making my mason jar that I decided to also make a candle holder out of one of these little Dollar Tree glass containers. I opted for the square look just so it was easier to draw on for me. I used those same acrylic markers, and I started by giving myself some grass at the bottom with the darker of the green, and then I did the same process around the whole outside that I did with the mason jar. So I started with the medium color purple and worked my way down each, and then I did the lightest color purple and then the darkest. So you're basically starting in the middle, going lighter, and then going darker. And so after I worked my way around the whole container, here's how it turned out. I also added that additional green to the bottom, just so then that way there were 2 different green colors for the grass, giving it a little bit of dimension. But I just popped in a little tea candle, and it's super cute for spring. I'll have to get some lavender scented ones. Dollar Tree, I think, has those. So I will have to grab those because these are so cute. This next project is by far the easiest and quickest one in the entire video, but I really loved these printables. So I went on Canva and designed some printables for you. They will be linked for free over on my blog. Just head over there. The link is down below. I cut them out, popped them into the frame, and that was it. Super simple, but I think they turned out really good. Also, our printer is slightly on the fritz, so the actual printable will have a little bit more green in the stems, but I'm happy with how this turned out. I just, I feel like I'm not alone here when you go to print something and you realize that you don't have ink in there. But these are super cute, and the printables will link down below. Before we hop into the next project, I did want to let you know that I am starting an email list, woo, which basically means that I'm going to start sending emails out to my Whiskey and Wit insiders. If you're interested in signing up for that, there's a link down in the description box, so be sure to check that out. All it takes is to leave your email and I will start sending you some goodies right to your inbox. Now let's get back to the craft. Now you guys know it would not be a Whiskey and Wit video if we didn't buffalo check something. So I have been obsessed with these signs for probably over a year now, and I have so many different variations. I should probably do one video like rounding them all up, but it's this pennant sign. I put it over my coffee bar, and every time I see them I buy like another 3 or 4 more because I'm always afraid that they're not going to have them anymore, and I just love having like a complete set. So if you've seen my videos before, you know the drill. Remove the glitter by sanding it off and then giving it 2 coats of white Waverly chalk paint. I also decided to put some Waverly Antique wax on the top so it was a little bit darker. That just matches my aesthetic a little bit better than the lighter wood. Then it was time to paint the buffalo check. So first we do the vertical stripes. So I'm using 1-inch painter's tape, and I'm using a second little piece of tape as a spacer, and I'm spacing out even vertical. It looks horizontal to you here, but on the sign, vertical stripes. And you just want to make sure that you're pushing everything down and that your stripes are evenly spaced. If you need to measure, you could do that too, but I've done this enough times now that I can just use the little piece of tape as a spacer. Even if you're a beginner, you can absolutely do that if you're not crazy OCD about measuring everything. Then I took some light gray paint, which is called Silver Lining from Waverly. I just got one of their little containers in that, and I painted 2 coats of the vertical stripes. The reason I did 2 coats is because I put on a really light first coat, like lighter than I normally do, but you could usually get away with just 1 coat. So once those are all dry, go ahead and peel off your tape, but stick it to the side. I just stuck it to the table because you're going to need it later. Then I repeated the same step horizontally with the tape. So same thing, as you can see, I'm using that same spacer piece of tape and working my way down so that I've got those horizontal stripes, and I'm going to paint it again with the gray. Now before I do that, this is the trick that will really help you so you don't get incredibly frustrated. I took a pencil, and on the painter's tape, I'm marking the edges of my white lines. And the reason that I do that is because after you paint this, you're going to replace that tape that you had on the first go around. And if you don't mark it and your paint is darker, like light gray, you can see. But if your paint is darker, you're not going to be able to know where to put it. You're going to put it in the wrong spot. You're going to guess. You're going to mess it up. I'm speaking from experience, and it's frustrating. So just go ahead and mark it. It's a quick way to know. And then once it's on your painter's tape, you can see, okay, here's where I want to line up my tape. So then once that is dry, you can stick your tape back on, and you want to make sure for these first 2 coats that everything's completely dry because you're sticking and peeling tape and you don't want to rip it back up. So first 2 steps, make sure it's completely dry, stick your tape back on, and then we are going to do our final bit of the buffalo check, which is gray. So this one is elephant. Broken down, what you're doing is with the tape, it's showing where the lines overlap, and that with a gingham or a buffalo check or print, whatever you want to call it, is where the darker squares are. So that's how this works. And then with this final step, I don't wait for it to dry. I just go ahead and peel it, just because you've got so many layers of this chalk paint. I don't want it to dry, the paint to seal, and to rip it off. So here, literally, I'm done. Don't touch the wet paint, but carefully, if you pull it up, then you can let it dry the rest of the way. My final step was to take some leftover eucalyptus and lavender that I had from the previous projects and group them together, tie them with some jute twine, and hot glue them to the sign. I'm really loving this muted gray buffalo check. I also did another video that I added a sign to this same sign that said welcome-ish. You guys loved that one. And so you could do the same thing here. You could do that and add some lavender. They make a really good addition to your wreaths. I shared this Dollar Tree wall pocket in a recent haul, and I've gotten a lot of comments from you guys wondering what I was going to do with it. So I actually didn't know until I decided to do a lavender themed video, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So a lot of you have said that that sticker on the front is a huge pain to get off, so I did just want to share real quick with what I did. I just took some hot water and a sponge with the scrubby side, scrubbed off the actual sticker, and then I used some glue gun plus my Cricut scrapey tool, and it ended up coming off, but it was a pain, so just FYI if you buy those. Then I added some floral foam. You can use whatever size you have, just cut it down to size, and I like those, especially with full florals, because they're not going to move around in containers like this for you. So I'm just taking my miter shears and cutting off the little stems, and it makes it a lot easier to work with them when the stems are the size that you want and they're separate pieces. It really helps with arrangements. I always cut down my faux florals. So I'm just adding a thin layer in the back of eucalyptus just to kind of set the scene. And then I'm finishing off in the front with cut pieces of Walmart lavender so that it is nice and full and it's got those pops of purple. So you could definitely stop right here. This is a really cute wall pocket. You could put whatever florals you want in there. You could switch them out. You could use multiple different kinds of florals. But what I decided to do was finish off the front with a little decal. This peonies, tulips, and lavenders one. It looks a little bit like the French cottage look, but it also looks a little bit rustic too, which I like. So this is a free cut file linked down below that I just cut out with some matte black vinyl on my Cricut. I think that finished off the look, and I'm loving having all of these different pops of purple throughout my house. And speaking of pops of purple, this last one, I absolutely love this hoop wreath. It definitely looks way more high-end and more expensive than it was to make. So I got a 3D Dollar Tree wreath form, and it comes with 4 circles of the same size. So I just pulled out one of the circles and I got cutting. So I did what I did before with all the other projects. I trimmed down my little picks, and I ended up using 2 eucalyptus, so that's $2 from Walmart, and I used 2 lavender pieces, so that is $3. So $5 in florals and $1 for the wreath form and $1 for the jute twine. So you can make this whole thing for $7. If you want to make it fuller, you can definitely add more florals. Now, I am attaching it to the wreath form with some jute twine, and the reason that I do that is because I'm going for a rustic look. You could use floral wire, you could use floral tape, but what I like is that when this peeks out, it looks like it's part of the wreath, and you'll notice that here in a little bit after I show you how I finish off the wreath. But it's really easy. You just kind of wrap it around and tie it. It does take a little bit more time, but for me, it's worth it. But again, know that you don't have to do the jute twine route. You could use a lot of different things to hook it. So I'm basically just working my way from the top where I wanted my wreath to stop, and I'm working my way down to the bottom. Once I get to the bottom, I'm starting with 2 pieces of the lavender and working my way back out. And the reason I did that is so that I knew that my base was set with eucalyptus, and then I could fill it in with some additional lavender. So then I'm just working through adding my lavender in any of the open spots as I go. And also, if you've got any pieces that are kind of going like kitty wampus on you, you can take some more jute twine and tie that piece back to the hoop so that you get that kind of semicircle look that we're going for. Once everything was in place, then I took some additional jute twine and I just wrapped it around the center part to give it a finished off look. If you were going a little bit more for a polished look, you could add some ribbon, but I liked the kind of rustic, neutral, like very earthy vibes, so that's why I just wrapped the jute twine. The last piece is you could either hang it just from the hoop, or you can add some additional jute twine to the top to hang it.
This would be gorgeous for a wedding. You could also do the eucalyptus and peonies. I know that's big for spring weddings. This would be great for showers, and they are super cheap to make. You could probably make 4 of them with that one Dollar Tree wreath form, honestly, for 20-25 bucks. Like, that's so cheap. I have a couple family weddings coming up, so I'll be DIYing for those. So I've got wedding projects on the brain.
Thanks so much for watching. As always, let me know your favorite down in the comments. I love hearing what you guys like. I always have favorites in videos, but then I check the comments, and it's cool because sometimes projects that I thought might not even make the video are your guys' favorites, so I love that as feedback, and it helps me plan future videos. Again, I'm gonna drill it home. Go to Walmart if you have one near you versus Dollar Tree, and also every Walmart that I've been to this year, I've been able to find at least a couple of these. So these, I think, are a lot more accessible and easy to find. Spare the 47 cents for these guys because they're way better. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Baby. Sebastian. So we're trying to get footage holding Finn because he wants to hang out, and we're shooting some shots of the wreath. So this is what happens behind the camera. And this is what happens in front.